I like putting vintage fiber crafting tools to the test, and this week I thought that we could try out this So Perfect vintage toy sewing machine from 1976 or 1977 and see if I can actually sew myself an entire dress using a toy. It does say it's for ages over 6, so I do think that I qualify, but we'll have to see if I can figure this thing out. So why don't I go sit down at a better table and we can see what's inside and what we can do with it, hopefully. Opening it up, we've got instructions. This looks like a bunch of paper patterns. Some tools, I think. We've got the sewing machine, that's a good start. And some cassettes, including a used one. Oh, these batteries are old. Whew, these kind of scare me. Okay, I'm going to have to run out to the store to get some new batteries, but I'm going to read through the instructions really quickly before I begin, and let's see if we have everything that we need. It looks like we have the seam guide and the tool and the rubber stoppers. The only thing that's missing, I think, is that the first set of instructions are to make a little doll. And I saw other listings for this exact same sewing machine, and some of them had the fabric to make the doll. So I'm assuming that because we have a partially used cassette, there were batteries in the machine, and that fabric is gone, is that someone else made that doll before I got the chance to use it, which is perfectly fine. I think that just means that I get to start on on the bag project. So let's make the drawstring bag. Our pattern template, which is so exciting. There are so many patterns on here. We can do the bag, which I think I'm going to do. There's a halter. I don't know I think that means a halter top, but I can't tell exactly. A scarf and a pillow and an apron or wall hanging with a pocket. If this is just a regular sewing machine, my theory is that you can, or you're supposed to be able to sew almost anything with it. So I do want to make a genuine piece of clothing I can wear with it. But first, I want to take a moment to talk about the sponsor of today's video, June's Journey. If you also love vintage settings, this game is a hidden object mystery set in the 1920s where you play as June, solving her sister's murder while uncovering family secrets. As you go, you're searching scenes for clues and following the mystery as it unfolds. I really enjoy unlocking more of the story and decorating the island as you progress. One reason I was especially excited about this is that they're currently doing a special Agatha Christie event. These kinds of classic detective stories were some of my first exposure to the genre, and honestly what made me fall in love with it when I was younger. The whole idea of noticing small details and piecing things together, and that's very much the feeling of this game. And Miss Marple was a classic show in my household growing up, so seeing Agatha Christie's characters show up in this game feels really nostalgic to me. June is joined by Poirot for these events inspired by Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, which fits so well with the whole vintage aesthetic. These events are only running from April through June, so it's only available for a limited time. If you're interested, please download June's Journey for free using the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on screen. It's available on iOS, Android, and PC. Thank you again so much to June's Journey for sponsoring today's video and for making videos like this even possible. So I think what we should start with is to make a drawstring bag, which means that step one, I have to go to the store because I don't think I have any. I think those are D batteries, like the flashlight batteries. I don't think I have any of those. Ugh, okay, I am back with fresh batteries, right, Nutella? I really want to see if this turns on. Put in batteries, turn off machine, upside down, open the battery door, plus up there, down there. Well, it does things. Oh, that was louder than I expected. How do we put the cassette in? Let's see. I think that's the cassette in place. Okay, here is some scrap fabric. So I guess I'm just gonna sew across it and see if we are actually making any kind of stitches. It made a lot of loud noises. Lift lever in up position and then slide that through. And now on. it's a chain stitch sewing machine, just like my Wilcox Gibbs. I was wondering how this machine was going to work with only having things loaded at the top. There's no bobbin that's loaded or threaded on the bottom like a lock stitch machine. Most modern sewing machines that you can buy right now are lock stitch machines, which means you need a top and a bottom thread. But chain stitch machines, you only need a top thread. Well, we sewed nothing together. Chain stitches do tend to unravel quite easily, so they're the least, I wouldn't say they're not strong, but they have the biggest opportunity to fail. So I'm going to try that one more time. It's a bit loud, right? We are not forming any stitches whatsoever. Yep, we are still not actually making any stitches. Let me take you in closer. Yeah, we are still forming absolutely no stitches. It's stabbing through stuff, but no stitches are being formed. I'm trying to see if the needle is actually... Yes, the needle is indeed threaded. Oh, interesting. I don't know if you can see it. It happened on this one as well, but let me see if I can show you. Do you see how that thread is wrapping around the front right there? And I think that's causing extra tension. But yeah, if you look at this fresh one, when I pull on it, it's not wrapped around the front like that. At the risk of messing up every single last cassette that I have, I'm gonna just try adding this one. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna watch how this thread unloads now and see if we're getting any kind of iffy bits where it's getting a little cut up, and we're gonna stop immediately. Then we're supposed to put this under and pull the thread out. I don't feel like I have enough clearance here. Okay. Oh, I am just unraveling it. Lovely. Cut that. Pull it that way. Yeah, so here's what's happening. These loops are supposed to be looped into each other like that. And like this long stretch. But every once in a while, we're getting that not happening. And to me, this kind of points at an issue with the bottom mechanism. Has to be a mechanism at the bottom here for that looping to happen appropriately. And I feel like there's bits where that's not, but you can tell that it got better over time. So this is the very start, and we had a lot of issues towards the end, and it got better. So I'm wondering if I just sew a few seams, put that down, and we're off. Well, I think my initial idea of there being a tension issue at the top was correct, because this cassette is actually sewing, which is a really good start. But like I said, we are still having the issue of not all the loops on the back forming properly. And that means that, especially with this chain stitch, if you get a little bit of a run going, if I pull at one of these loops, the rest of the seam is just gonna undo, which you don't really want to happen. I'm planning on sewing a dress, so I don't really want that to happen when I'm wearing it. And again, I'm very glad, like I feel very lucky that I own and love a chain stitch machine, because it means that I understand how it works a little bit better, which means that it allowed me to understand maybe what is causing the issue here a little bit better. Okay, I have very lightly tried a few times to see if I could get this bottom bit opened, and if it were metal, I would be more willing to be a little bit more aggressive with it, I guess is what the words I'm looking for, but because it's plastic, I can see that the plastic is not happy with me. I'm wondering if I do a few more lines of test stitching, if it'll get better, like if it just needs a little bit of time to work itself in again. So I'm gonna run off of that assumption. Like another option we have is we can sew over the same line forwards and then backwards. And then hopefully sewing the bag is enough of a practice for this that by the time that we get to sewing the dress, maybe the mechanism has worked itself out a little bit. I'm just gonna try to sew and we'll see how much of a headache it is. I've got this fabric that I've been using as my scrap, so I think I'm gonna continue to sew with it, but let's look at the pattern and the directions. Here's the bag pattern. The instructions do say to cut this out of the paper before using it, but I kind of want to save it as much as I can, so I'm not going to cut it out of the paper. I am just going to cut it out of the final fabric. So you probably want to iron things and all of that, and I want to do that when it comes to my dress, but for this practice piece, I think we'll be okay just using it as is. All right, there is our drawstring bag cut out. Let's move on to the sewing steps. So the first seam that we're gonna sew is the one that is the casing for the drawstring at the top. So we will just sew this one in place. It's getting better, kind of. Like, just a little bit, but still some skipped bits. I sewed up the bottom and the side. Again, I did 2 seams everywhere, but it's still all a bit precarious. I have wrestled this ribbon through, which came with the kit. So now we actually have a drawstring bag that functions as a drawstring bag. I am kind of floored because this is from 1976 or 77, and it's a working-ish chain stitch sewing machine. Also, as I was sewing, I actually looked down and I saw this price tag on one of the cassettes, and it's from November 1st, 1977, and it cost 97 cents, which is, I don't know, that's kind of wild to me. So, do I feel fully comfortable now jumping to an entire like dress pattern? Not exactly. 2 reasons. One, the seams aren't like very sturdy still. They're enough to hold the bag together, but I don't, like my dress could come apart. The other is that the thread has nearly run out on this one. And I only have 2 other cassettes and they aren't really fully working. So my plan is to sew until this bobbin runs out on the dress, and then see if I can't take this cassette apart and reload the bobbin, or if I can't reload the bobbin, fix the other 2 and hope that that's enough thread to make my dress. What dress are we making? Well, I was thinking through what would I actually wear and what would be relevant to this particular machine, given that it's from 77, 76, and I found this 1970s pattern that I think is so cute. Let me go cut out the pieces of the pattern from my fabric that I've chosen, and then let's see if I can sew a dress that sort of stays together. We'll have to see, and if I even have enough thread to do it. Okay, so I have cut out all of the pattern pieces and they should be ready to sew together. It's a few days later, so I don't know, I'm hoping that some sort of magic might have happened and we don't skip as many stitches. I actually cut it out with a little bit of a ruffle on the bottom, so hopefully that's cute. We'll have to see. We are also running quite low on thread, so that's another question that's up in the air, if we'll have enough thread to get through this. This might be a bit thick for this machine. On. It is quite loud, I have to say. We are still skipping a bunch of stitches with this. Ooh. Yeah, that's fully going to come undone. I know I have tried to get access before to this stitching mechanism because I think the main stitching mechanism is under here, and that is actually what's currently failing. Yeah, and like I said before, the problem that I have is attempting to get the cover off of the bottom mechanism. I am just bending plastic and I've started to crack it in places, so I don't think that the plastic is in good enough condition that I can take the cover off and still have it be in usable shape. I'm a little bit on the fence as to what to do. I think though that our best bet might actually be to go to my antique chain stitch sewing machine, because that's the antique version of this vintage one, and it's the one that's this one I think is actually based off of, and maybe I can finish the dress that way. I think the answer is that I cannot sew a dress. I maybe could if I could take this apart and service it, but I can't do that without irreparably damaging this machine. But I think it would be still very cute to have some sort of dress to wear. So let me take this to my antique chain stitch machine and see if we can't get it sewn up all together. So after about an hour of sewing on my antique chain stitch sewing machine, this is the dress that I've ended up with. I do actually really enjoy the shape of this dress and how easy and simple it is to wear, but I've decided to stop at this point, and some of you might have some hawk eyes and can spot that there's a few things that are not exactly right with this dress. So yes, I stopped because I realized I sewed this is the wrong way together, right? You're supposed to sew right sides together, and I sewed a right side to a wrong side. So this is not even an attached band. We have a showing seam here. I just covered it with another little strip of fabric. There's no elastic in here. I've just pinned it shut to kind of hold the dress on. And the reason for that is that this fabric is too thick. It should be supporting itself on the upper half and kind of holding itself up, but it is just too thick in this area to properly scrunch together. It also like I can tell I did a test fitting with elastic in here, not very, like not the elastic, I would have to go out and buy elastic, but the ones that I have on hand, and it just actually could not pull this fabric together enough around the waist. So I was kind of thinking, is it worth going through the effort on the rest of this fabric for a dress that I know I won't wear because the fabric isn't appropriate for it? The other issue with it is that this is made for, this is a Mrs. style, which means it's a teenager style. And when I walk normally, sorry Nutella, it's fine. But if there's a moment where I maybe have to step over something like Nutella, I am all of a sudden incredibly constrained. I don't like that feeling. So I actually have, oops, sorry girly. So I actually have plans to resew this dress with another set of sheets that I have that are much, much lighter, so they aren't quite as stiff, and to potentially I like the columnar shape of this dress, but kind of flare it out a little bit at the bottom, or maybe add a little bit of a slit, I'm not sure, so I can actually walk a little bit more properly in this. But I decided to kind of try to stick to the main question of this video, which is, can I sew a dress on a vintage toy? And the answer is not on the one that I have. Maybe if I bought another one that's in better working condition with way more cassettes, maybe it could be possible. Maybe someone out there has a very well working Sew Perfect sewing machine from the 70s, but not with the one that I received. Please let me know if I should try to find a different Sew Perfect sewing machine and try sewing a dress again. Maybe redo this one with better fabric and less constricting leg movement. Might be nice, but anyway, thank you so much for deciding to spend a little bit of your time with me today. I hope that you'll join me again for my next video very, very soon, and I will see you all later. Bye!